Chosen.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Caffeine Bros podcast with your host. That's Jared. I'm Asa. Jared, how are we doing today, buddy?
Pretty good. Just got back from the gym and some shopping for some more energy drinks. It's 70, I think it's like 70-something degrees here right now. It's sunny, of course. How's that stuff going in Fargo for you?
We're in the middle of a blizzard warning, so it's another day in Fargo, North Dakota,
Yeah.
but can't complain. It's what I knew I was getting into coming back here, so cannot
True.
complain.
What are you drinking today?
I have Bum Energy Pink Lemonade.
Nice.
What are you sipping on
Have
today?
you had this? Have you had the flavor before?
No, I have not. So this will
Okay.
be a first for me to try
sure.
this one.
Okay. I had to check and see because I couldn't remember if you have or not. I'm doing this. I have not had this one either, but it's Hard to Kill Bum. That's a strawberry lemonade. So same boat, just a little bit different flavors.
Yeah. All right, let's take a couple sips and you can take her from a review to start here.
It's very light on the flavor. It reminds me a lot of those. What are they? They're not called sparkling. I don't think they're sparkling waters. Those Walmart ones, the ice ones or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what ice. Tastes like an iced strawberry water, pretty much. To me, there's not much like lemonade aftertaste if you're comparing it to like a Ghost iced tea lemonade or anything like that. But I think that that one is pretty good. I would give it a 7.2 out of 10. I think just for like the strawberry taste on it, but like I said, it's like you're drinking a carbonated strawberry water with a little bit of caffeine. What about you? What do you get in that pink lemonade bum eating?
It definitely tastes like pink lemonade. I think opposite to you, I'm getting more lemonade flavor on the back end, which is kind of nice. It definitely has like that strawberry-ish flavor in the front, which is really good. It's really smooth. It's similar to yours. It's still overall light, so it doesn't taste super heavy or super like fake, which is good. I'm gonna give this probably 7.8, 7.6 out of 10, and I'd buy it again for sure. It's definitely a good flavor. I was skeptical because pink lemonade can really be a hit or miss, so I think they did this one well.
Before we get into the thick of our topic of the podcast, what's one energy drink you're looking forward to coming out this year? If it's a redrop from a seasonal, or if it's like anything like that, what are you looking forward to? Ghost's got a bunch coming out. Alani just dropped the cherry bomb stuff and like a couple other ones there. I think Rise is working on a few new flavors as well. There's new pre-workouts coming out with some new flavoring. Is there anything in that wheelhouse that you're looking forward to? Or maybe protein drinks?
You always know the right things to ask, Jared. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Yeah.
Rise is collabing, or said to be collabing, with some candy brand right now, and I cannot remember what it's called to save my life. But I've been seeing Rise.
Oh, Airheads.
Airheads, there it is. And I am genuinely excited because I think most of the time they've been pretty authentic with their collaborations. Like there's been a couple misses in my book, but most of them have been really well on, and I'm excited for something new from them to see how it goes because I've been drinking a lot of Ghost lately, so it's always nice to have a little bit of a switch up if there's something good out there.
Yeah, I think the thing I don't know if they're gonna have. I think Ghost Rides are gonna go at it a little bit with this one because Airheads and Sour Strips are kind of the same ballpark of candy in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
So I think this is Rise's rebuttal to Sour Strips because everyone knows like the Sour Strips is one of the more anticipated energy drinks of every year for the last 3 years or so that they've done it for.
Yeah.
So I think that it's their answer to it, but also too, I think they haven't announced anything yet, so don't quote me on this if people are watching this, but I think that now that the partnership with Sour Patch Kids is done and all that, they can work with Sour Strips now because they're two different companies. Mm-hmm. So before and that's why I heard that's why Sour Strips is only seasonal, is because they only had so much they could work with them because of that other collab with each other. So now we might be getting Sour Strips and strawberry, blue raspberry, and things like that. Like the other flavors they all got. I don't know all the top of my head. We already got the rainbow one. But I think this is the rebuttal from Rise to do this very similar thing. And then it's just going to be kind of a person-to-person basis, I think, which one wins. Because, Sour Strips is a fairly new candy, where Airheads is a very well-known candy. It's been around since I was a kid in, 90s there. So it's like, It's been around for a long time, so it's a very household name. But sour strips has definitely got some good flavoring out there too. So I can't really hate on that.
Yeah, we'll see if it can if they do sour if they can match the nostalgia with it
Mhm.
necessarily, you know, because like you said, it's been around so long that like people have that set ingrained flavor in their mind when they think of what they're when they're eating them. So I think it'll be interesting to see if they can hit that. I think they'll find kind of a reignition in terms of interest. But
Yeah,
if they miss that, I think that might be an absolute dagger on their part with what Ghost has been doing in terms of flavors.
I agree. I think they're white. They're gonna do the white cherry airheads probably. If I had to guess, that one's probably gonna be their white monster revamp that a lot of these companies have been making now. I don't know if you've seen it a lot, but I've been seeing it. That just work when I had it has the glacier. What is it called? Gorilla Mine's got the glacier frost. I think
Yep.
theirs is. There's also then that same boat. White Monster's been always been around there. I just got the first form silver lightning, I think it's called, which is it's supposed to be the ensemble of that. The guy I got it from said it tastes a little bit like Airheads though too. So we'll see, if where it's at in that flavor palette when I do that review. But like all these companies are kind of following that because monsters, a lot of people are going for that flavor. Like when they go to the gas station, people are just going into the white monster. So I think that's why they're doing that. But I think each company's trying to make their own like championship mentality is Bum's version
Mm-hmm.
of it. You know what I mean? So like all of them are getting to that point. And then Ghost Original is technically supposed to be the one for their 1-to-1 comparison. So it'll be very interesting. But I think the ones I'm looking forward to is like the two new soda collabs for Ghost, 7 Up and A&W.
Mm-hmm.
A&W you compare it to Root Beer Float by Rise because they're the newest one with it. The Root Beer by Bum is amazing, I think, for the cola packs. Um, but then I think that one and then the 7 Up. 7 Up is interesting to me because we've had a lot of citrus ones before, but nothing like they can taste it, make it taste like that carbonated soda flavor. I think it's gonna be really good. Because I know it hasn't been announced if it's seasonal, but I'm guessing it is. It's like the cranberry grape and stuff like that. That one's seasonal. Blue raspberries permanent. They're coming out with permanent sour strips, but like the soda flavors might be. That's why they're spaced out. They are the ones in April and ones I think in like August or whatever. I think they're gonna taper each one of those out. So you get the 7 Up first into the summer, and then you'll get that root beer at the end of the year, kind of thing there. And then yeah, I think those two, and then actually one of them as much as people don't like them, I want to see those. Try those Prime energy drinks in a can.
Oh, the protein
I
ones you're
think there's some.
talking?
Yeah, the protein ones. I think that those they don't have any caffeine in them. I don't think, but the Prime ones just interesting to see how that's going to taste. Because I think Bucked Up was the first ones to kind of do a protein in a can like that,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember right. So I'm interested to see how Prime is going to taste because you do get 32 grams of protein compared to 20.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how that all plays out. And this is their first protein drink too. They're only making electrolytes before too. So I'm interested to see how they transition into that. But
Yeah, it should be interesting. There's a lot to look forward to this year for sure in terms of collaborations and flavors and new things in the market. So we're excited to share them with you, and hopefully you guys review them with us, and we can see what we all think.
yeah, I agree. Now, do you want to get into the topic of today's video there, Asa?
Absolutely. So today, Jared and I, oh, Jared, we are talking about gym pet peeves. Now, I have a list that we have kind of cultivated here of about 8 different ones. We're going to
Yeah.
discuss them and what they look like to us. They may not look like the same thing to you, and that's okay. But we're simply giving you guys our opinion and thoughts on how some of these things happen and why we just cannot stand for them. And they just kind of make us mad. So, kind of little mini tangents here or there. And then, time being, we'll probably go over just some basic lifting equipment necessities with it as you continue to grow and train. So, I think getting right into it, Jared, number one on the pet peeve train, not re-racking your weights. What do you have to
Yeah.
think for that?
I think well, first of all, it comes down to everybody, not just you or I. In the gym, we are responsible for it too, but because everyone be on the same page. But I think more commercial gyms that you go to is a bigger issue of finding weights after they're not re-racked properly, or like that. If you compare it to a private gym, I feel like a lot more people are re-racking weights better, not all the time though. I've seen it where it's been a 25 and 5 5s behind it or something like that on the edge. Um, I would say it's probably, for ranking it out of 10, it's probably a 6 or 7 on my, on my list of 10 being the one that makes me really angry and 1 being I don't really care. I probably like, it sucks when you can't find a weight, but I've been doing it so long and walking around the gym so much. I feel like, like when you go get stuff, it's a little extra steps. You find it, you put it, you go still get your stuff. But the only thing that I guess would be irritating is if they leave like a uneven amount of weight on one side or the other or something. Like, like a leg press, they take half the weight off. Now that's a different story. Then that would probably be a little more mad since there's 4 plates off on one side and there's nothing on the other. Then I'd be like, okay, you did half the job here. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I think it's extremely frustrating. I will say, to your point of like private versus public gyms, I do feel like once again public gyms have it a lot more frequently. Private gyms, like for example Evo here where I train at, they literally have a fee. So if they catch you on camera not putting your weights away, that's $30 per time you don't do that. Thank you. Like that makes life so much easier because it holds everybody accountable. Kind of like you said, we're not perfect, but it's the simple things in the gym of like just being able to put your weights away when you're done with them so the next person can come to that machine and use it exactly how they want to use it and not have to take time to clean up after you. So I think similar concept, scale 1 to 10, 10 being like makes my blood boil. It's probably like a 7 just because of that sheer fact. It's like at that point it kind of boils down to laziness. I get some people are putting a lot of weights on things, but if you can put the weight on it, you can take the weight right off of it.
Yeah.
It's not hard. So that's where I'm at with that.
I feel like Minnesota and North Dakota and all that, those are the places that you see a lot of people have like the fees or the cancellation thing. So Iron Physique in Rochester, Minnesota, great small gym, kind of private because you need to keep fob to get in. It's more of a bodybuilder gym, but they say if you don't put your weight back, they have the right to cancel your membership. So you don't see that as much down here, even going to Fit Lab, a Muscle Factory, Independence. Like there's kind of people hope to put your stuff back, but they don't have anything fees or anything that in your sort of for not doing it. So I've seen it a lot more in the Midwest than I have in a big city like this. So
Yeah, I think that's one we had to start with because it just everywhere you go you're probably going to run into it. It's just a matter of how frequently you're going to run into it. So had to get that one out of the way first.
100%.
All right, Jared, curling in the squat rack. What do we take? What do we think? What do we look at?
Depends if you do leg day or not. I'm kidding. No, I did. So I do legs, and my perception maybe a little changed a little bit on because I don't really barbell squat too much anymore. But I think even when I was barbell squatting, and you'd have someone doing it, it'd probably be a 8 out of 10, just because like I'm gonna go there and squat. And it's partially too with the gyms. There's not a good spot to do like a standing barbell curl where you're out of the way. That is a common thing. Like not many places. Like I think I've seen one gym, and it was in back when Gold's was in North Dakota there, Bismarck. Before they bought out, they had a thing where you go stand and put the barbell in there, a little divot thing on both sides. You go stand there and do barbell curls. So it wasn't meant for anything else other than holding the barbell there. And that was the only time I've seen one where you could just go stand in it and curl without having a pad in front of you or any of that extra stuff. That was the only time I've ever seen one where someone can actually go do that and curl. But on the other hand, when they have the presets and like bars and stuff like that you can curl with, you should get out of the way, out of the squat racks and do that. I think that, you get like the argument you get from everybody, right? When you go into that, well, I pay the same X amount of dollars a month you do, so I can do what I, kind of want mentality, which isn't a great one to have. But I feel that's the response you get to a lot of these people when you get into arguments with them about it, because then, like, what do you do at that point? But I would say it's probably up there at like an 8. What about yourself?
Now, if you asked me 8 years ago if I thought that was acceptable, I would have said, hell yeah, that's fine, who cares? But I think to your point too, like as going through someone who's went through the phases of like living or dying by a barbell squat at one point in life to not really using them anymore, but understanding the importance of those power racks for what they're meant to be used for, I can see it being extremely frustrating because a lot of gyms don't have 20 or 30 power racks, maybe a couple commercial ones if you're at a big enough location have a good handful, but for the most part it's like 5 or 6 of them. And if you're somebody that takes up that space to now use a bar to curl, you're taking away from somebody that might be wanting to work on a sort of Olympic lift or a powerlifting movement of that. And once again, I understand. I pay the same amount of money you pay. I can do what I want here. Well, no, because if the rack is on the other side with all the fixed bars, like you were saying, there's no need to go set up a bar and a squat rack to curl it. It just takes everybody's space, and then it just becomes frustrating. So I think, to your point, I'm going to give it probably a 6 out of 10 in my current standpoint. But if you fast forward or backtrack me maybe 3-4 years ago, I'd have said it's probably a 9, just because just use of squat racks right now in my own personal training. So
Yeah, like there's one that I run into that like so Muscle Factory, there's nothing, you have to set up all the safeties and stuff yourself, so I don't really like it when people do it there. But Vasa's got these other squat racks that are like preset without, so you can't move the safeties, so you can put the bar on there. I've done like barbell rows where I pick it up off there and go out of the rack and do it because it's at like the waist height. So some people's depth, like I know for me, squatting, when I barbell squatted on those racks at one point when I still went to the gym full time, I would almost like hit the safeties getting so low. And if someone shorter than me is going to hit the safeties on that one. You know what I mean? Like I'm 6'2", and I get within, a little bit of that, like that safety. If someone shorter than me is going to almost bottom that thing out. You know what I mean? Like going full depth. So it's like, to me, like that, those kind of ones are okay. But like, I mean, like you could set it up and stuff like that because, like I said, a little shorter. But any of the ones that you can adjust yourself, I think you should get out of the way, and stand off to the side. I know sometimes, like if it's a crowded gym and stuff like that, and it's like an option, but yeah, I would say look for more of a fixed squat rack if you're going to do it. But
yeah. Oh, Jared, this is your favorite one. We'll plug it in right here. What are your thoughts on like pajama pants, like lack of effort in the gym?
Yeah, that one's like that's a big pet peeve of mine. That's like I'll get up that 9 or 10 area because like my thing is I'm always like, I'm not saying the gym's a fashion show by any means or anything like that where you need to dress like whatever a certain way, but with little effort. Because like to me, if I'm looking at it from like a business standpoint, right, if someone shows up in a public setting in pajama pants, that shows me zero effort getting ready for the day. You didn't do anything other than just stay in the same clothes you slept in, probably. Then there's the argument of sweatpants. Everyone's like, what's the difference? If sweatpants are at least black, gray, or neutral color, not a plaid or whatever, got Stewie on them or some shit like that, and you're coming into the gym with a bro tank on or whatever, and like just it just shows me a lack of effort overall, like of just getting ready and wanting to do anything for the day. You can't even change out of your pajamas for the night, and you left them out all day, and you wear them to the gym. And do you wear them when you get back home after you sweat in them, or what are you doing? Like, I don't know. I think it's just kind of a very dumb thing to do. Like I said, I get that everyone's gonna give me the sweatpant argument, but on the other hand, like you can definitely transition pajama pants to sweatpants. It's not that it takes you 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Slightly different look. But I don't know, to me, it just shows laziness on other people's behalfs when they just wear pajama pants in there and stuff like that. So, yeah, what about you? What's your thoughts on the pajama pants?
So I'm not gonna lie to you, Jared. There's been times in prep where I've definitely been guilty of just wearing some pajama pants to the gym. I'm not afraid to admit it, but do I agree with wearing them? No. Looking back on it, I think it was a dumb choice. Just because, once again, I think if I don't owe myself the respect of at least being able to change into something different to go try to make myself better, I'm kind of failing on step one. I'm not really setting a standard for myself at that point. So to me, it becomes more of a like mental game of like, if I'm not willing to take that step to just change and address what I'm about to go do, am I really going to go do it with everything I have? So I think same thing, and kind of similar to your argument. It's just if you can't do that for yourself and you're going to the gym, it's just like, what are we doing? Like, throw on a pair of black sweatpants, throw on a pair of gray sweats, throw on some shorts, literally anything other than some buffalo plaid sweatpants or buffalo plaid pajamas and going to the gym. So I think for me, it's probably like a 6 out of 10 in terms of irritation, just because it's a little more mental to me, but it's still just very like, why? Like, I feel like it was kind of a dumb trend that got started, and it should just not be a thing, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, my thing with it is just like it shows just laziness. That's all it is. Especially when you're there trying to be better and push yourself to a better goal. I mean, like you might have a great physique up top, whatever you're showing, like what there are people doing, but usually like the pajama pants thing, well, yes, it was a trend and everything that people were doing. I didn't ever get in on it, but it's like Yeah, I always think about looking at some of that stuff, like when you're going to these places and like tattered clothes and stuff like that. If you're going to a hardcore gym, do what you gotta do, right? But if you're going to a normal public setting, you never know who you're gonna meet or you see. And let's see, to me, like you said, he looks lazy. You can't even change for the day. It's like we learned that when we were fucking five, six,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So it's like, yeah, those. So I think it's very lazy. And then if you see someone in public, maybe you go apply for a job and he's seen you wearing pajamas at the gym all day and stuff like that, every time he goes or whatever, and then all of a sudden you go to his business and like you're looking for a job and you could change and dress up, but he sees you doing that, being lazy outside there. He might not think anything of you when you come in, even though you dressed up and changed. But if you're not even doing simple as something to take care of yourself and change that way, are you going to do that in the workplace? Are you going to do,
yeah,
that's where I'm kind of getting it. Maybe looking into it too deep, but then also too, it's like appearance is everything. That's the first thing people see, even if they don't know you,
yep.
is what you look like. So if you're making a first impression like that, I don't think pajama pants are the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's between Jared and I, one of our favorite ones to discuss because we both agree very heavily on it. So if anybody disagrees, we'll love to have a conversation with you on it for sure. It's just that's where we see things at with it, So
It definitely doesn't boost performance. I can tell you that.
all right, going into just another great one, Jared. How do we feel about like excessive phone use? There's a difference between okay, 3 or 4 minutes in between a really heavy compound. I'm just kind of resetting my mind, my everything going on. I'm getting ready to hit a set versus, okay, it's been 12 or 15 minutes. This guy's doing sets of 15 with really lightweight, not really giving a lot of effort. What do we feel about that?
Mm. I would say probably for the number, it probably goes right around that 7. It also kind of depends if I'm at commercial gyms when it's very busy and stuff like that. That's on the people to get off their phone. Like if you're in need to text that much, go on the treadmill and do something, and you're still active and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to send 30 text messages in 5 minutes, go sit on the treadmill and text or bike or something like that. The biggest one that bothers me with is people on leg extensions. I don't know if it's just a leg extension thing or what. Some people will sit there on that thing for 30 minutes and text more than they extend. But that one's the biggest one I would say, like, that bothers me. And then benching areas are probably second in line to that. But I feel like a lot of people are starting with a bench press or just starting the workouts. They're a little more engaged
Yeah.
comparatively. But I think that overall, I think that shouldn't be. I mean, like I get, like you said, between sets and stuff like that, it's fine. Like I do all my workout stuff on my phone,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm typing in my sets and reps and stuff like that. So I go back to next week and my app that I use for it just tells me where I was at. So I do use my phone for that purpose of it. But it's a quick, like, I did 110 pounds for this exercise for 8 reps or something like that. So I put that in, toss the phone back in the backpack, keep going. I change my music from my headphones and stuff like that. I don't need to sit there and, unless you're going to that heavy set, go scroll, get that music going, pump it up. I think it's probably right in that wheelhouse, that 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10. I think it depends on the environment too. A lot of people in those more extreme gyms aren't on them as much, except for recording.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit different, but like the texting, as far as that goes, it seems very much a very commercial gym issue. As far as people are going to those places, they'll sit there and don't care. But
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say from my time at like a YMCA or like a crunch standpoint, yeah, you could see somebody sitting on a machine for 20 plus minutes because they'd spend way too much time working their thumbs and not enough time working the body part that machine is utilized for. So I would say definitely can be extremely like irritating at times. To your point, I agree. I think at like a private gym, people take it a little more serious. They understand that there's maybe a little bit more limited equipment, so they actually care and they put that effort into those machines they're utilizing, knowing that somebody could be waiting and is just doing something else. So I think, and I'm gonna maybe put something controversial out here, but I don't know. I feel like the worst ones most of the time are some of them just high school kids that just don't really care. They're just kind of in between sets, just doing things, just watching TikTok on their phone for 10, 15 minutes and realize they should probably hit another set. And no shame in the game. Like, you'll learn, you'll understand, but like, it just comes to awareness. Like, just understand, like, I'm on something that somebody may want to use. I should probably make my time valuable here and utilize it properly and not just sit here and watch TikTok. So I think, to me, if I'm sitting in a more commercial gym setting where I saw it a lot more frequently, that probably was like a 9 for me, because if I'm trying to get a workout in, I'm trying to get a pump, I'm trying to make myself push myself to my limits, you can't really do that when somebody's taking forever on a machine or really shows no enthusiasm about getting something done. They're just kind of taking their time, swinging their feet. So, me personally, it's like a 9 in certain instances. So, Jared,
Yo.
poor hygiene. How do we feel about smelling? Now, I understand we all sweat. We all work hard. We all may have some not great smells occasionally at the gym. But to the individuals that maybe don't prep up with some deodorant, or don't care to be a little more hygienic before going into a place where you're going to lose some of your hygienic. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I think it's got to get up in the 9 range probably, because I'm not going to call out what the person looks like or anything like that, or how they were, but I was at my Muscle Factory probably 2 months ago, and I actually had to stop doing my set and go somewhere else. And I'm not one of those people that are gonna tell you really about it, but it was, and I don't even really talk about conversation. I feel bad calling these people out and stuff like that, but it was so bad. I was next to him, literally the only thing that was separating me was him and a bench, because I was over there curling, and I could smell him from there. And it was just one of those things, in between sets, I'm like, God, I can't even stand here. And it wasn't it was body odor, smell, whatever. But I'm like, I was like, I can't even stand over here. And I was the guy was leaving the trail, because even one of my friends, she texted me, and she's like, she's like, it smells now back here. This guy came back, and I asked what he looked like, and she's like, yeah, that's him. I'm like, okay. But it's one of those things. It's kind of tough. I mean, there's a respect thing you can maybe tell people, but also you don't know what they're going through with that. But it's tough if you can't even work out next to them.
Yeah.
I think that's a very tough issue to do that. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, respectfully speaking too, because like you said, we don't have any idea what some of these people go through and what that may be from. But I guarantee you, a bar of soap isn't gonna break your budget, especially if you're training at a private gym. Need I add? Because if you're paying the money for a luxury of a gym like that, I think one of the things you should be able to do is make sure you don't smell like BO. If you're spending $60 to $100 a month on your physique, and you can't afford a body wash or soap or deodorant, maybe need to revisit our financial skills, which is a different podcast episode for sure. But I think, to your point, it can be really irritating, and I'd probably give that like a 7, just because I haven't really encountered it up here. Funny enough, I had more issues in Arizona than I do up here. But
it's a little hotter down here.
Just a tish. But I think for the most part, just when it is the case, it's just a really bad case, and it's so definitely can be frustrating. Next one on hand though, the people that utilize multiple machines at once. Now I'm talking, imagine this person's on the far west side of the gym, maybe hitting a preacher curl machine, and then goes all the way to the east side of the gym on the opposite side to hit an extension machine or ropes or cables, but then gives you kind of some fleck if you're wanting to hop in on one of those.
I think that it goes back to the thing I talked about earlier. We all pay the same amount of money at the gym. I think so. I kind of ran into this really recently. One of our gyms down here, Los Campeones, closed in Tempe, and we had a bunch of people came over, and the Muscle Factory there, and this disappeared. So I used, the pitch shark RDLs we talked about in our last one. We posted a little bit about it. I was doing no one around, nothing attached, with just 3 plates left on each side, which goes back to our weight thing. 3 plates left on each side. There was a backpack in the squat rack down on closest to it, but it was in the squat rack side. It wasn't by the pitch shark. So I get over there. There's no belt hooked up, nothing like that. So I hooked the chain up. I started doing my warm ups from 3 plates. I got all the way up to 7 plates per side before this guy comes over. I was using that. I did from 3 plates to that. It's you're not using it anymore. He's trying to tell me there's stuff on it. If there was stuff on it, I wouldn't have even hopped on it. But those things were I just stood my ground a little bit on it, because it's just one of those things hey, if you're going to be gone for 30 minutes, it's not yours really anymore at that point. So it's when if they're not letting you work in, you might have to adjust your set, your workouts and stuff like that. But it kind of depends what you want to do with it too. I mean, is it worth getting in the fight over? If some of these hotheads at the gym get all upset about it, And or is it worth just kind of like I can just go do something else?
Yeah,
Like there's a lot of people. I feel like you deal with it more in morning people than you do in night people at the gym. I
I would
think, in
say
my
so.
opinion, like I think like that 5 to 7 a.m. crowd is where I've had the issues with it, comparatively to the people at night, like 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Usually people are on one thing, because maybe it's because it's so busy. I don't know, but I haven't had as much issues at night comparatively to a morning workout with running into that. What's your thoughts on that? I would say it's probably like a 7 now for me.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I don't run into it a lot anymore up here. I think it's just due to the lack of people rather that are in the gyms, like because we have a crowd here, but nowhere near a crowd like in Arizona when I was there. But it definitely could get frustrating in that concept of there's no marking or trace of somebody here. Like there's not a backpack, there's not a phone, there's not a water bottle, and you think you're in the clear, so you start hitting something, and somebody comes over and has the nerve to say, "Well, I was already using this," and then you kind of say, "Oh, well, I didn't know." Like, what? Like, okay, are you cool if I work in? And they're like, "Well, I'm actually supersetting this and this, so I kind of need to do it when I get over here." And it's like, well, okay, now this isn't cool because it's one thing to need a superset, but it's another thing to not have any, like, I don't know, understanding per se that like this is a gym for all of us. It's not just you,
Mhm.
not just me. So I think it can be extremely frustrating at times, and especially it's the ones to your point that like think like they own it when they're using it and nobody else can have it. I think that really just sends me over the edge because it's like whatever, like you clearly just don't have a great way of thinking when it comes to that then. So I would have to give that probably like an 8 when it does occur. But like I said, it's been a minute since I've dealt with it because up here you really just don't have that busy of a crowd or that surge of people for the most part in areas. So
Yeah, I think that's too one of the nice things. If you can make some friends at the gym and they are using something, you can have them tell you when they're about done with it, so you can get it after. So that stuff kind of helps too. But I think it's tough to say because, like I said, there's that whole aspect we all pay the same kind of thing and all that. But I think most, if they're decent without an ego or d-bag about a lot of stuff, most people let you work in
yeah,
between them, which is nice. The best thing you can do if you are working in, though, is make sure you pay attention to what weight they had it at, so when they get back over, because they seem to be more of in a hurry maybe than you are, or they just give off that impression. Just have the weight set up for them, put it back. If it's 3 clicks on the leg extension for their legs or whatever, the handles, whatever, just keep an eye on it, so that way you can just set it back for them. They'll have a little bit more respect, and maybe in the future, if you have run a machine that they're using again or a weight thing that they're using again, they're more inclined probably to let you do something too. So also kind of do your part as well if you're going to do that.
absolutely. All right,
So
dude, getting to the last couple of these. I
mhm.
think another big one is like bad gym etiquette with like personal space. Now, I
Yeah.
understand, you can keep your benches kind of staggered, you can keep your space kind of set, but it seems to be those people that might not have the perception of what space looks like. So say you're hitting like a dumbbell chest press or a dumbbell fly, and they're either ungodly close with a barbell for curls or they're ungodly close on a bench next to you doing the same type of movement. What are your thoughts on that when they just like the effort could be there to move it or make it easier, but they don't? So then it's harder on you and your set. Because I get you could do the same and move it, but you were also working first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the ones that bother me, I don't really have anyone working close next to me, and I don't know if that's just like a lot I haven't had it yet. I don't know if it's just because what area I take up or whatever, but the ones that bother me is the ones that stand in front of the mirror, do lateral raises and curls, and they're at the rack or whatever right there in front of them with the dumbbells. Get out of the way, all right? It's not your little space. Go step back 10 feet and let people get the dumbbells. Because I like seen it where there's 5 people waiting to get dumbbells because you're standing in the 10 and 5 spot, and they can't get to the 50s, they can't get to the 60s, and they can't get to the smaller weights because you're standing in the way doing lateral raises or curls. So step back 10 feet. You're not gonna look any different than you are up next to it. The other one with space wise, I don't really like treadmills and stuff like that. I feel like when I have people if it's busy, it's a different story. We're all lined up. I feel like it's kind of like when I have people like you're next to each other. Not that I don't mind having people around, but I feel more claustrophobic having people next to me kind of deal. And I really don't necessarily get that feeling a lot. But like I have people like so much next to me, and like I just feel like it's this constant offbeat stuff. I don't know. It just like the space that way. I don't really necessarily like it. And like unless I know you, I can talk to you. Like I know you like that. that's fine because it makes time go by like that,
Yeah.
like when you're on the treadmill. But like if I don't know you and it's like you're next to me, like I'm like, give me some space here, especially when there's like 40 treadmills and there's 10 open. You gotta take the one right next to me. Like give yourself a little space too, in case something, something happens or you trip or something like that. You're not taking out people with you. Give yourself a little space to move around if you need to or something.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, I guess those are mine. I haven't had anyone pull up to me next to me on like the bench. Like if they see me benching, most people stay out. Like out of my way. I think the only time I had one in the last like 5 months, I would say, and that's when I was squatting at Muscle Factory when I was doing barbell squats. Probably like I was doing wiggle, back out of the rack. Like people next to me, they got two guys were standing on the edges of the other side. So I'm going down to squat. They were on the narrow side instead of the open side, and so it's like I'm trying, I'm trying to wait for them to move as I got 300 pounds in my back ready to go down. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to try and smack you at the end of this bar, but if you don't move,
You're gonna get hit.
it might have, yeah. And they're going to get mad at you because they're like, oh, yeah. It's like, no, you're sitting there talking on the wrong side. So, yeah, I think that would be the only one I would be close to, but I never had a problem with when I'm benching, shoulder pressing, or anything like that. These people are pretty good at getting away from me.
Good. I know I would. I'd stay away, Jared. All right. I know you mean business when you're hitting sets, but I think kind of similar concept with you. Like the treadmill things resonates with me a lot just because of the simple fact of, like you said, if there's 20 treadmills and there's 3 treadmills being used and you decide to come right next to me, that just I just don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. It's like there's like just etiquette of being like, oh, here's a couple spaces in between, or here I'll go to this side, like just something simple. I will say, like training at Evo, the luxury of that just isn't necessarily there because we have 4 treadmills. So if 2 of them are being used, your caveat's going to be next to somebody, which to your point, cool, it's fine, doesn't matter. But I feel like I run into way more frequently, and I just don't know if it's a lack of awareness thing or they think they can't move the benches, but I'll be trying to hit a heavy dumbbell flat press of some sort or whatever that may be on a bench, a skull crusher, and this bench is a little closer than I'd like it, but I figure if somebody wants it, they can either A, slide it over just a little bit because there's nothing to the left of them, or B, just move it forward or backwards a little bit so it's not just in a direct path with me. But we just got to sit right down and just get to work right there. And it's just, not that I'm going to hit them, but it's just you're just close enough to the point where you feel like you can't focus on your set all the way through, because if they make a wrong move or you make a wrong move, you might hit each other, and then that's a whole new issue. To your point, they're like, well, why'd you do that? And it's like, well, I was kind of here moving this weight first. Sorry, I can't help it if I have something slip up or move or change. So I find that a little more frustrating. I don't run into it frequently, to your point as well. Like, it's not like something I deal with every day where I'm like, oh my God, these people. Because, like I said, you and I both train more private gym typically, so we deal with people that have a little more, I think, awareness just because you're at a setting like that. But, yeah, when it does happen, it can be just extremely frustrating. So,
yeah.
Okay.
I think like that, going along with that, though, I think, too, it's, I don't know if it's something like the... I heard one of the things talk about the treadmill, and it's kind of odd thing just remind me when we were talking about it, but like some guy on TikTok was describing the treadmill as kind of like the bathroom for guys. If there's a urinal thing, you don't take the one next to somebody. And I don't know if it's the same for women in the bathroom there, if that, I never really asked, but like you don't take the one next to somebody unless you have to.
Yeah.
And someone said the same thing that like the guy was talking about, like, did you ever think about this? And that was some bald guy with a beard on TikTok. But I thought like when you talked about it, I'm like, that's pretty accurate. I think that's maybe why it bothers me.
Yeah.
It was very similar to that concept for guys. So like, I mean, I can break it down real quick for people that may not know what it is. Like, if you have 3 urinals, you don't take the one next to the guy. You have one on each end. You don't take the one in the middle unless you're the last person in there. And if the person stands next to you, it's the most uncomfortable thing ever in your life. And it's very similar to the treadmills. And like all these are open, you take every other. And then if someone takes next to you, it's just uncomfortable because you feel like your walking pattern, like you're just kind of thrown off now because you're kind of like on edge because someone's right there, like it feels like that thing. But I thought that was one of the truest things. It just reminded me now when we were talking about this that I'm like, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty close. That's pretty good. That's pretty right.
Dude, I love that. That's the easiest way to explain it to a common person of like, this is what it feels like when we're doing it. So,
well, like I said, guys will understand a little bit more probably with that, but I'm just being kind of breaking it down for everybody just to sum it up. But
Yeah. All right. Let's go. Let's go. Last one over this, and we'll go into some straps and belts and uses of that. But
yeah.
I think this can be a big one in certain areas when it's like an ego coming from an ego. But if it's coming from like a
Mhm.
genuine like wanting to help, I feel like it's a different story, and that's giving unsolicited advice. Now we've discussed this in prior episodes where it's one thing if we notice somebody that could maybe use the tip, like hey, we don't want you to hurt yourself. But it's one thing if it's like the most slight thing ever, but somebody thinks they're better and they need to come address it. And I think honestly, in between those two, it can get really frustrating if you see that. Now, I don't really deal with it, but I just know that that can be a common thing, maybe in more packed areas with people that have a little more ego. So I wanted to get your thought on that one too.
Um, the spotters, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Spotters, I think that um, if especially whether it's ego or not, any just every weight you've done, always ask somebody, even if you're scared to. I know it can be intimidating. Like, for instance, there's a kid. I did call him kid. I'm guessing he was maybe about between 15 and 17 at Vasa. He couldn't be much older than that. He was me, and like, I was lucky he was paying attention. And it's one of those things where you talk about high schoolers kind of do this, but I was lucky he was paying attention. He had 275 on his back for squats. I don't know if he actually hit the depth for squats or anything. I didn't see that part of it, but I see he couldn't get it re-racked because he put the pin too high on his in the thing. I remember I threw all my shit down. I didn't care if my phone or everything. I just got that because he was about ready to let that thing go with him and back, which could have caused like a serious injury. For him, especially someone he was maybe 120 pounds. Like he was very small kid. Like it was like I said, I was like I was paying attention like enough to like I looked up off my stuff and I was like this guy's not gonna he can't get it re-racked. So he stepped on. You could tell he was contemplating like dipping it. He probably would have went with it, like I said. And I got over there, I just went underneath and picked it up and helped him get it on the rack. And he ended up like he thanked me and stuff like that. But you could tell he was very like he was upset with himself. I think because he failed, he did that wrong and stuff like that. But he ended up leaving after that set. I don't know if he just like I said, if you're just starting your workout and stuff like that, and you're going into that stuff. And most people are gonna be fine helping you out, like are gonna help you with a spot, and they're not going down, whatever. So I think that's a huge thing, like asking for it, and I think everyone should do it regardless because you never know what's gonna happen. I started hurt my quad and why I can't barbell squat anymore. Really, my spotter wasn't really helping pay attention. I was working 365, and my left quad strained really bad, and I couldn't squat for 2 months. I had to really rebuild my leg up because I wasn't able to like load it up because it would start hurting on the inner part of my quad really bad. So I did a lot of step ups, things like leg presses, things like that, like lunges. Like step ups are all different heights to bring it back. So the injury doesn't outweigh the reward of just asking somebody, hey, can you spot me real quick? Make sure you have the right person to do it though. Like don't like if you're squatting 500 pounds and you have a guy that's doesn't look like he can like lift a single plate on a leg press or something, don't go ask him, but you ask someone that has, that would probably be able to help you power it through. But I think it should be used all the time, no matter like if or not all the time, I should say. If you're going to go for a weight you haven't touched or a weight you don't know of, I think it's more important like those force reps you talked about to have them too, because they can help you guide you a little bit with those compared to an ego lift. Ego lift, if you're going to struggle with it, still ask somebody, even if it's a 1 rep comparatively. Sorry, it's kind of a ramble, but that's kind of like my take on it all and wrapping it up in there. I don't really have like necessarily a rank for it because it's kind of tough because it kind of depends what you're
Getting
looking
out of
at.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a spotter is such a unutilized thing in today's gym era, which is kind of crazy because if you look back at like, the glory days of bodybuilding, like the golden age of like Arnold and all them, like they always trained together so they could have a spotter so they could get something out of it extra. And to your point, I think not only does a spotter help you get those extra reps if you're wanting more for development, but also kind of allows to be that like beacon of light for like, hey, maybe watch your elbow on this, or hey, maybe check your depth, or hey, whatever it may be. Because from the times of me training as well, like just a couple of really good buddies that come to mind, and like James and Mitch, like they were never afraid to like just be honest, which obviously, like you said, a younger kid might not always handle it well, but sometimes it's just needed because if you're wanting to progress in the gym, you should probably know that it's not a dig at you personally. It's just a, hey, we need to get better. So I think spotters for sure need to be around a little more. And then if you're ever in doubt of it, and even to this day, I still utilize it. Just asking someone that I feel confident, like you said, that can pick this weight up if I were to absolutely bomb on it. Because I'm not going to ask a 15-year-old that's benching 95 pounds to spot me if I'm incline smithing 275. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't make sense. But finding somebody that like I would be comfortable with, that typically when you find that person, they're just as willing to spot you. You know, it's never like they're going to be, oh, I don't want to, because they want to see you succeed typically just as much as you do without even knowing you. So.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's good points for it, and it's tough, like I said, but in all doubt, like, always ask somebody. I know it's tough, and maybe you're not the most social people ever, but I think in the long run, if you're going to save yourself some time, injuries, I would say ask regardless of ego lift or force reps, but
Yeah.
you don't even for every set, just go in there and
Make it count when you do it.
Top sets, go for it. But I think it's important. I would see, like, for me, I like training by myself a lot, you know, not like comparatively. I like have the here and there lifts with everybody, but like I like just putting my headphones in and focusing on me for that time. So I can't necessarily speak on necessarily spot. I'll ask for it if I'm going for something I've never touched before, like weight wise, like some of those pendulum squat, not pendulum, hack squats. I was trying to rep some 5 plates out that I was doing the other day. I made sure to have my buddy Ronnie help me out because I wasn't totally sure yet because I haven't really touched that. So I'll go ask for that, but he's there at the same time I am, so I had no problem going to ask him, like, hey, you mind doing this for me for a couple reps? After that, I knew I could get it, so that way it's like, I'm back to doing what I was, normally doing. But with lifting by myself, sometimes it's like kind of trade-off. So you like that kind of after dealing with people all day.
Yeah.
So, but I also don't do that much. I do the more of the bodybuilding force reps more now than I do the 1 rep ego lift PR kind of deal now than I used to. So it's a little different, but
yeah, I mean, hey, good topics at hand with that, truthfully. Jared, we've also had lately some requests just on kind of like the basics of equipment in terms of like use, like if it's a strap, if it's a belt, if it's an elbow sleeve or a knee sleeve, just kind of wanting us to go over what those are, and we can make this kind of this end of the subsection here with it, going into the end of this episode. But I think we just take some time and we kind of discuss what they are. And if you're watching the podcast, Jared has his strap with him right now, so he's going to kind of go through how to properly set one of them up. And we'll just kind of go through some different benefits, some different use, why it's necessary, because it's definitely not necessary for everybody, especially if you're just starting, but there is different uses that can be very helpful as you continue along your gym journey. So with that, I'm going to kind of hand it over to you, Jared, to show them the strap and kind of go through that.
First I'll talk to this part of it. You guys should be doing some sort of grip training before too, because you don't want to, I feel people nowadays in the gym rely on these too much. I'll do a lot of my sets up until I get it to a certain point, and then I'll use these. Don't use these for every set, because you do have to build up some grip strength. If you're out, I'm a big believer, if you're out and about having to do something and you need something like this, you're not, and you don't build up that strength, they're not doing, you're missing out on a key part of growing. But there is a tool to use this if you are getting within a certain point where your grip does give out. I think it's overused on lat pull down sometimes for people. So it's like, I think if you're doing a pull-up, how often are you seeing people using these to do pull-ups? You're really not seeing people use these for pull-ups. So why are you using it for a lat pull down? That's kind of my thing on it. Like, you won't see me doing much with them on a lat pull down ever. I try and keep it use my forearm, everything I put on there. A lot of times, a lot of these I use for barbell rows or deadlifts. A lot of times I'll do it. But the big thing with so if you're looking at it here, with my Harbinger patch, I'll go through and loop it through this way, so I have it. What you want to do is put it on your wrist, just like that. You want it to go across your palm. So when you're wrapping the bar, it goes that way. So across the palm will help you brace it. You wrap it through the bar. So I use my thumb as the bar idea of it. And then you grip over top of it, and then you hold it. So that way now it's locked in. You can see that's not going anywhere. So that's the way I usually wrap it. I preferably, I don't know if you guys can see this. Mine's pretty beat up from how much I use it, but there's rubber on here. There's a lot of, I like these Harbinger ones with the rubber on it because it gives you a little extra, no slip almost on it. Yes, it gives you a little bit of a grip advantage, which, I mean, you're pulling for anyways if you're using it. But if you have a cloth strap with nothing that's just this texture all the way through, that's going to slip faster than one with grip. one without a grip will likelihood stick with the knurling and everything like that. As you can see, some of mine are ripped off from using it so much. But the grip, I like the grip ones for that reason, just because I don't have to worry about my hand necessarily slipping out with it because it has an extra stick to it. Comparatively to a cloth, the Gym Reaper ones are just like that canvas all the way through. They're good enough, but like if you're going heavy, I don't like leave it up to that. If all of a sudden you're moving 455 pounds in a deadlift and that left that strap slips, what's going to happen to your right arm? It's going to yank you down, right?
Yeah.
So I would look for something with a grip like this one. This is the Harbinger. We got them at Shields. I think they're like 10, 12 bucks, something like that. But this is my second pair of them in 8 years. It's going to last quite a while.
Yeah.
So that would be my like one for these. I think they're barbell rows are fine because I understand you can maybe row your lats might be a little bit stronger, or single arm rows, things like that where you're actually using like weight. I think when it comes to like pull downs, pull ups, and things like that, you really don't need these. I think you got to work at the grip post a little bit more. It might take some time. But I think if you can practice doing that a little bit more, even like maybe if you are doing like an AMRAP set to finish off heavy, throw them on. But I think people rely on them too much for reps training, and I don't think that's where they should be used necessarily, because you do want to build up your strength a little bit. But if you're on the other hand, if you're not going to compete and do anything, like as far as powerlifting goes, if you're not going to compete, go ahead and use these more often then if you want. But you also, in powerlifting, you got to be able to grip it with this chalk, so you got to understand you got to work your grip too. So if you're not going to worry about any of that, competing portions on anything, I remember a guy I worked with, he said, I'm not competing, so why do I have to worry about why do I worry about that? I just want to move the weight. Fair enough. If you're not going to do that, then go ahead and go for it with whatever. But I feel like overall, I think you got to use it when you need it instead of relying on it. I think it's just like people wearing belts the entire workout, those thin waist, ones or whatever. You see people wearing that, like you're gonna lose that core strength. If you're going to pick something up on the day-to-day basis and you have a belt on your entire workout, like your belt's not gonna be there all day when you're gonna pick something up. So you gotta build some of that core strength up, and I think it takes away a lot of your core strength if you rely on it too much.
Yeah.
When you're doing your warm-up sets and your whatever other exercises comparatively. If you're doing an actual like top sets or whatever, using it, only use it for 2-3 sets, and you take it off, that's different. But
yeah,
using your whole workout, now it's kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, I think I'll touch on that too briefly with you. With especially belts, just looking at it, studying it, all that fun stuff. Like they're great for helping you think about creating, that intra-abdominal pressure, because that's when you wear a belt, that's ultimately what you're trying to do, is you want your abs to strengthen, to brace into that belt. So when you're training, it keeps your core tight, which keeps your lower back in check, which in return will keep you from getting hurt, which is great. So I think to your point too, which is super important to understand, most of the time you don't need that 90% of your workout. It's that maybe last 5% where you're training really hard and you're wanting things to stay in check. And being able to have a cue like that, or if you've maybe suffered an injury in your back or something where you're trying to refocus your strength in your core, it can be a great resource. But it's one of those things, especially as a beginner, when you're starting to get into the gym and you're starting to train, that just overutilization of it isn't adding any benefit to what you're getting out of it. Because at the end of the day, you're still going to need to have that mind control of like creating abdominal pressure. Because truthfully, this might be a hot take as well. We're just full of them on this episode. But I don't think if you are a seasoned lifter in good health I'd say, you should not need a belt for probably anything under just about 300 pounds on a squat. I think you should be able to have strong abdominal pressure created through yourself and a proper hip hinge, that you should be able to probably hold that. And I mean, probably up through 2 plates. Now, anything after 2 plates might maybe be chalked up to something different. But those first couple plates, really, if you have strong abdominal pressure, you shouldn't need a belt for it. You really shouldn't need it at all. So.
Yeah, I think that comes from building it up, though, too. I wouldn't say some kid could hop in and just do it. I think over time, as you build up your weights and stuff like that, it comes like, because I can pull 405 without a belt, no problem. But someone else might not be able to pull 405 without a belt, no problem. But I had to build up to that with my reps without using the belt. Learn how myself brace myself and stuff like that too. But that's kind of a trade-off with that. I think understanding which one to use too. Like I think powerlifting personally, yes, everyone wants to do the lever actions. I get annoyed with those a little bit because you have to adjust them so much and stuff like that. Go with a single prong, 10 millimeter or 13 millimeter single prong from like either Mark Bell's Strong website or Jim Reaper or something like that. Just get a single prong belt, so you don't have to keep adjusting it every lifting session because you're a little more bloated or something like that, or you want to look cool with a little snap or whatever. You're not there to show off with that. You're here to get the weight lifted and stuff like that. But single prongs compared to double prong, like double prong, top one can get stuck, bottom one can get stuck when you're trying to go up there. A single prong, you're going to get the single prong out comparatively. And then also too with the levers, like you bump the lever, it's going to, guess what? It's going to release. Single prong, you don't have to worry. You tucked it in like a normal belt you wear it a day to day on that little loop they got. You're very unlikely to have that thing take off on you. And single prong belts are generally 10 millimeters, but you can get a little bit thicker one if you need the extra support for if you're doing strongman powerlifting or whatever. But I recommend those to everybody. I'm not a big fan of the lever belts and double prong. And then the Velcro belts are very useless in my opinion because they're not really doing too much. I get in CrossFit, they're a little different, like how you can release it and tighten it back up for certain things when they're doing so many repetitions, but that's for something totally different. But I think if you're going to go into it and you're actually doing powerlifting, something like that, you should probably get a belt like that. In my opinion, I think they're easier to get off and you can adjust it your day to day depending on how you're feeling or if you're bloated or not bloated or whatever. And comparatively, I need to get my screwdriver and take this lever off and move it 2 inches to the right or left or whatever, because then how much time do you waste in doing that in the gym when you could be doing your set already and already have that single prong tightened down,
Yeah, 100%.
It's kind of tough to say.
100%.
So, I mean, you're going to fluctuate your on and off, off seasons for those and stuff like that too. So I don't know.
Yeah. Valid discussion, Jared.
Yeah. And then what are your thoughts on wrist wraps?
Yeah, they're good. I use them very limited. Once again, if I'm going really heavy on like a press of some sort and I want to keep myself in check, I think they're a great addition. I just, even with bodybuilding being my focal point, it's just not something, I'm not a big like extra piece user, outside like knee sleeves on a leg day, just for that added support in my knee. I'm very minimalistic with it. Now, granted, that may be because I'm still early in like an actual bodybuilding journey, but I think there's a time and place for that type of stuff, and it's just right now for me not very frequent. But for you, where do you see that in your training more frequently?
I got them right over here. I want to show people if you're gonna wrap them for a heavy bench press. I'll show people how I do that with that quick. I just gotta grab them quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
I forgot to grab that earlier. All right. So I got these. I haven't worn these in a while, so forgive me with that. But I like these villain wraps. They're called by Tough. You don't have the thumb loop, and they're always approved for powerlifting. You put it through like a belt system, and you have it higher up on your wrist. You can hold it there and then tighten it around. And that's going to keep more of and you just lock it in. So I can't bend my wrist back as much easily compared to if I push it back down. Now look at that, I got a full wrist. So if I have it up higher, when you have a stacked bench with more, over 225 would be where I'd throw them in. You don't want to have weak wrists. So you do it like that or a shoulder press and see, like I said, now it's back up over and you can actually get it stacked so you don't have that rest in there on that. I think they're useful for that in powerlifting, but I think if you're doing as general training and bodybuilding, you don't need to use them.
No.
Really?
I think very limited use.
If you're over in like 275 north for bench press, then you could probably use it, but I wouldn't recommend if you're not doing a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, Jared, I think we're coming more towards the rear end of this episode. Anything you want to say to the listeners/followers?
No, thank you like usual. I appreciate you guys' feedback on some of those things. Hopefully some of this stuff helped. I know that you guys probably all relate to some of the pet peeves. If you have any ones that we missed, you can always put in any of the comments, Instagram or YouTube, TikTok, or anything like that. And you can always throw that in there. But I think overall is good. If you have any energy drink recommendations, I know a couple people reached out to us about. You've done the Alani Cherry Bomb. I gotta do it this week here. I got a couple of them finally. So I'll be doing a couple of those reviews there with that. And just, yeah, if you recommend any recommendations for us to try, send them our way. We appreciate you guys' support as usual.
Yeah.
But you, what do you guys for?
Yeah, obviously, once again, we're grateful for you guys listening, following, supporting us, interacting with us. We couldn't do this without you guys. I will say this every time you hear me speak because we are grateful to have people that enjoy listening to us and this podcast. Definitely keep your eye out for future content. Jared will be up here in about a month's time now, very close to, and then that's when the fun's going to really begin. So outside of some podcast episodes at that time, you will start seeing some more short form videos and some different challenges that Jared and I have decided to place in front of each other. So that'll be a very, very fun time for both of us to just get more content out there for you guys to get to see more about us, learn more about us. And we're going to have in-person pods, so you can't get mad at that. That's just even better. So
Yep.
I think we're just extremely grateful for you guys. Definitely keep liking, subscribe if you haven't. Follow us on Spotify, on TikTok, on Instagram. We're going to keep coming out with reviews. We're going to keep doing new things, and we couldn't do it without you guys.
It's true. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We should have some fun stuff. Yeah, but hopefully you guys like it. We'll have some more energy drink reviews throughout the week for both of us. We got some different ones we can throw out there, but
Oh, yeah.
As you like to say, caffeine bros to the moon.
Caffeine bros to the moon, my guy.